What about public speaking makes it so challenging? Or it's something that gets a lot of people anxious, afraid, or whatever it may be. And I know my experiences having to give speeches for class presentations. Well, I remember back in grade school, I used to be terrified of them. And we got to ask ourselves, what is it about speaking in front of a group of people or an audience makes it nerve-wracking? Well, you could think of, what if we embarrass ourselves? What if we say the wrong things? Or what if people are mocking us or teasing us in the audience or saying bad things about us? I know all different things can run through people's minds when they're giving speeches. And I used to think, and especially during grade schools, the reason why I despise giving class presentations is because I was oftentimes picked on because of my size, my facial features, among other things. I used to have some repetitive habits that I would get teased about. And so whenever I got up in front of the class, I would always be afraid of my classmates are probably thinking, it's Donnelly, the one who does that, or it's Donnelly, the one that doesn't have any meat on his bones, or it's this or that. And that all changed, actually, when I finally went to community college in my early 30s. Yep, there was a big gap. I dropped out of high school, ended up getting my GED a year later. But it wasn't until around my early 30s when I went to community college and I had to give my first speech for a college class. And was I nervous? Oh, yeah. But it's one of those things. With public speaking or giving a presentation, it's one of those forms of communication that you can actually prepare for. You can actually plan. Whereas other forms of communication like group discussions or going out with friends or meeting someone you've never known, it seems like you can try to plan as best you can, but there's really there's no formula because it's so dynamic. Whereas giving a speech, it's a lot more structured. It's planned. You can rehearse. You can make sure you know what you got to say. You can research your topic. You can kind of organize your thoughts. You can consider your audience. Okay, is my audience, are they familiarized with technical terms? Or am I going to have to use layman terms that everyone can understand? Or there's a lot of different variables that you can plan for. And so with that being said, yep, it was that time where I had to give my first speech. It was for a communications class, interpersonal. Well, no, it was just regular communications. And I was really nervous at first, but then after about the first 30 seconds, first minute, you start getting into your comfort zone. You get into the zone. At least this is my experience. And this is where doing a lot of good preparation, making sure you got a lot of practice, that's what comes in handy. And so after the first minute, I just kind of got into the zone. I didn't find myself stuttering or floundering words or sometimes jittering like I often do on my videos, or it seems like I do. I don't know. I think I've caught myself a couple times already on this video, kind of stuttering a little bit. I don't recall doing that so much in my speeches. And so it would actually get to the point where I was so comfortable. I was like, hey, I don't mind staying up here longer, giving a longer presentation. But then it gets to that point where, people's attention spans are only so long. So it was about a 5 or 6 minute speech. And it was one of those things that, hey, it's you realize it's not that bad. If you do a lot of good preparation, you realize it's whoa, giving speeches, it's not that scary after all. Yeah, you just get those pre-jitters like anything else, before doing a race, or if you're about to do something that's going to make you nervous. You get those pre-jitters. And then as you just dive into it, that nervousness goes away and you just kind of get into the zone. And throughout my time in college, having to give more presentations, same thing. Always being a little nervous beforehand, but being that you do your preparation, you got your slides ready, it all went pretty smoothly. And so it seemed like anytime I've had to give a speech, I would always score pretty much almost maximum points. I guess it's no different than really trying to make a YouTube video, where in a way it is kind of like doing a speech, even though I'm only speaking in front of the camera. There's no one necessarily looking at me at the time of making the video. But then again, once I upload, it's for the world to see, for the world to critique, whatever they want to say. As someone said, yeah, once it goes on the internet, you're pretty much feeding, I mean, in a rough way to say it, you're feeding yourself to the sharks. But yeah, so let's see, what else? Yeah, so that's one thing. That's one of my strong points. I figure that's my strongest point when it comes to communication, because it's something you can actually plan for. But yeah, it's something that I always ask myself. It's like, even like the most popular people, or the people are like, they're good with like social interaction, they go out all the time with their buddies, but yet they find themselves nervous when they're having to give a presentation in front of their coworkers or in front of their classmates. And it's just like, it's interesting how the people who seem like they're like the life of the party, or like, yeah, that he or she is such a cool person, but then that same person finds himself nervous before giving a speech. And the other experience I've had giving a presentation was, of course, during my internship, and of course, just participating in group discussions in my previous role. But like I said, it was pretty smooth sailing, so I just kind of wanted to share that. But for any of you out there, what have been some of your biggest challenges if you've ever had to give a speech or a presentation, whether it be for class or your job, or maybe some other form of whatever it may have been for? But yeah, it's interesting to hear other people's feedback as to what is it about public speaking that makes people get anxious or nervous about it. But I'd love to hear your feedback. Well, that's my video for today, guys. Hope you guys are doing well out there. Peace.